Action. So, hello, Isabela, my friend. It's so good to finally see you since we've stopped seeing each other daily, maybe
Yeah.
2 years now, and weekly, maybe for some 4 months, maybe 5 months. We don't bump into each other.
Yeah.
I'm here. Probably so.
Probably something like that.
Okay, so for anybody who's watching us right now, Isabela and I, Kenneth Corrêa, we're working together at 80/20 Marketing for a total of 6 or 7 years together.
9 years.
9 years, and I'm always losing my numbers here. And this is the guy that says he works with data. So for 9 years, we've worked together. And then Isa made a very important career shift where she headed north. Remember, we're from Brazil, so we're in South America. She looked up north. She saw some dollar bills, that are special in that country. And that's exactly where my friend James Hennis is right now. He's a little bit confused because he just heard news of active shooter
shooting in a school.
In a school 5 blocks away from his home.
Oh my God.
So it's national news, and then he had to walk in and he'll tell you about that. But Isa, before you introduce yourself, I'll give it to James so he can say and present to you what we're building here in Global Bridge Leaders. James, you have the words.
Thank you, Kenneth, for handing this off, and thank you, Isabela, for joining us. We're really on a mission here to do something different. Kenneth, I and Kenneth have something in common we want to share, and that is we love to learn and expand. We're curious about history, culture, business, technology, all that stuff. So a little bit about me. I was raised in the south of the United States. It's Mississippi near New Orleans. So it was called the Bible Belt, and a place where we don't get a lot of cultural influence during my upbringing, in the 90s. And so eventually I started meeting people from other countries at the age of 18 for the first time in my life at the university. And I became fascinated with what I didn't know, right? I wanted to learn. I thought, wow, these foreigners are so much more intelligent than the people that I grew up around. They know, they're curious. And I was like, that's me. I'm more like them. I identified with these people more than I did actually than some of the people that I was around. And so eventually it expanded. I met somebody from Brazil early in 1998, took my first trip alone. I was 20 years old, and I had never flown on a plane before. I never got a passport or visa, and I'm off, and I land in Campinas, Sao Paulo, and I spent a couple of months there for the first time. Fast forward a decade later, I'm living in Campo Grande, Mato Grosso do Sul, as Rita Lee would say, and I listened to Rita Lee actually give a concert at Parque das Indigenous for the first time. And then eventually my dream in that time, or before coming back to Brazil, was to teach English. Here I was also back in 2001 being introduced by FLS in Campinas to go teach business people. And I was only 21, 22 years old, English. But then something happened, sent me back to America, got my degree in economics, finance. A decade later, I came back with a degree in teaching English as a second language as a mission. It was my dream. I wanted it. I felt like it was the most important thing in my life, and I pursued it. And then it was in Campo Grande due to a connection that me and Kenneth have and a guy named Renato and I had met at the university at Southern Mississippi. And so there's the connection. And the next thing I know, I'm like, here I am in this city called Campo Grande, never dreamed of it. And I fell in love with that city because it offered something that I had really never seen before. That goes on for 4 years. I love teaching people all the way from lawyers to doctors, how to give their presentations more confidently in English. But I eventually became aware of the fact that I wanted to do more in my life, like as we continue to evolve. And so that ended in 2014, 11 years ago, was the last time I was teaching actively in Campo Grande. Now I've been running actively a photography business of my own for a decade, 10 years. and going into professional speaking and writing. And me and Kenneth have always are just thinking of new ideas, how to help people. And I've been trying to figure out how can we give value. There's not a lot of people that have empathy for the people of other countries, particularly from America. I'm very aware of that because I live here my whole life. And so I'm kind of that guy that likes to stand up for people that are outside wanting to come in and help them build that connection, have the confidence to do so. Me and Kenneth have a lot of connections. He's obviously an expert on something that we all want to know about. And I want to also kind of help people have the mindset and plug that together so that we can move forward. So that's kind of a little bit of what I'm doing here. And I'll hand it over back to you, Kenneth.
Thank you very much, James. So Isa, again, thank you very much for being with us tonight. This is you're our first guest. So we're giving it a try and trying to figure out what's happening. But it's important for us to understand from you, how did English get into your life first? When did you first get a connection or got in touch with that language?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, James and Kenneth, for having me. And I'm very flattered to be the first guest. So I started studying English at a very young age. I was around 4 or 5 years old. My uncle just immigrated to the US back then. So I think he first noticed how important English was, and especially learning at such a young age. So he was pushing our family, get me and my cousins to learn English. So we started very, very young. So I'm very, very privileged because I see right now some of my old friends, they are trying to learn as adults. And I think they always say, like, I wanted to go back in time and start at younger age, because I feel that makes a lot of difference to incorporate that English. Like Kenneth always says that he started speaking when he was born. So every time we start speaking so young, we feel like English becomes like a second brain for us. So it's easier to communicate, it's easier to flow the conversation without having to translate everything in your head. So I started such a young age, so I was very privileged for that.
And I remember, Isa, that you always, James, Isa will always use Friends references. I'm talking about the 90s TV show. So she was also in touch with a lot of culture from America because she had a contact with that language at that time as well. So
your English is amazing.
Friends,
it's really good. Yeah, really good. And it's not just about, you know, what's the word? Like she feels the language. You know, you can tell when somebody goes into a level where they're not just speaking it, but they're flowing. There's a fluent person. I like as a teacher, I realized there's people that are fluent and there's people that are fluid, like water. You know, it just pours out without having to think.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
I'm enjoying, because I'm used to listening to Isa for 9 years, speaking in Portuguese. Of course, we'd share a little bit in English, but mostly in Portuguese. And it's amazing to see how you've evolved as well. That's great. And Isa, tell me something more. And I know you're an SEO specialist right now. And I'd love for you to mention, how did you get into SEO? Because you went to business school, to the same business school that I did.
Yeah.
Although we are maybe 5 or 6 or 10 years apart. 10 years?
I think 10 years.
10 years. We're 10 years apart. So we went to the same business school. So from business to SEO, how did that happen, please?
Yeah, I studied business. I started an internship at Sebrae. That's a company here that helps entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a meeting with Kenneth back in the time, was like, I think 2014 or something. And I fell in love with 80-20, 80-20. I just knew that I had to work there and opened a position at SEO. Do you want to work? I was like, what is SEO? And of course. So I studied actually SEO for like a week before my interview. And thankfully, hard skills were not the priority. Soft skills were the one they were aiming for back then. So I got in and started studying SEO. And now I came back to SEO. I stopped working for SEO, I think for maybe 3 years or something. We jumped into more email marketing, inbound marketing, content marketing. And then now I came back to SEO, and I'm now an SEO account manager for this American agency. So that's how
Wait, pause. There's a pause here. So now Isa is working at 80/20 marketing. We're working together with SEO. She moves on to email marketing, inbound marketing, as she said. But then she had to take a leap by talking to an American company. Now, remember, she's from Campo Grande. She's talking to us right now exactly from Campo Grande.
Okay.
She's got a beautiful little girl, a very nice husband in her home. But now consider the possibility of working with a company from another continent in another language that's not your native language. Tell us about that specific leap.
Yeah. I had no idea that we could do that. We started global, but as you mentioned, James, Americans are very strict to bringing other people to their companies. But I talked to a friend, and she started working for an American company. She's always, you have good English, you have the English skills, you have the technical skills, you should go for that. And I said, okay, why not? So I started applying for a couple of companies that did remote work because, like Kenneth mentioned, I have a young daughter. I couldn't move to the US right now. So I started to see a lot of remote jobs out there, but 90% of them required that you had work visa to work in United States. I was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense if you want remote. But then I happened to have this opportunity to talk with Pentalope, the current company that I'm working for, and they really enjoyed the fluidness and the fluency. All of our clients are from United States, so they require that people work there can speak and fluent English, that can understand the client's questions and they can respond these questions. And our team is very global. We have Colombians, we have people from Europe, we have people from India. So English is our common language. So between ourselves, I do have 2 Brazilian other colleagues, but we only speak in English. Because, yeah, I do.
Where are they from?
One is from São Carlos, near São Paulo, and the other one actually lives in Portugal for like 10 years, but he's from Brazil. So we chatted between each other in Portuguese, but we're always talking in English because it's the common language that everyone can talk with. So I think that's what your guys are doing. And James, you teaching English for other people, it's so important because I feel like anywhere you can go, there will be someone that can understand you in English. You're going to find that person. So not even for work skills, for life skills, English is such an important language.
Absolutely. I mean, I would teach people in our Let's Talk school as well. It was a private school in Campo Grande, aside from the professionals. And I know I was doing something a little taboo in a way because I was planting in their mind. I was asking these 14-year-olds, what are they planning to do with their life? This is in 2014. So these would be 25-year-olds today, 26-year-olds. And I'm in contact with some of them still. And I would say, if you can learn the language called English, it's going to expand your possibilities to do things beyond what maybe your predecessors have done. You know, that means family. So if you want to just learn that language, it's just going to open up the door. It's a key that unlocks multiple possibilities. It's not about making more money only. You know, I learned Brazilian Portuguese because I wanted to understand the culture and be able to have the ability to be able to navigate another world, as you would say. Wow, fascinating. Especially coming from my perspective, I don't have a lot of people that I know who can, they don't have the ability that I have. They just don't have it. I don't know anybody actually in my family or no one around me that can speak Portuguese. And so I have to communicate that with you guys, you know, because I mean, it's rare. And what I'm saying that for is because really now that you opened up that door, now you can go into this world of tech even deeper. as Kenneth can point out the reasons why. I'm sure, right?
Yes, that I would like first, James, if you could tell Isa a little bit about Toastmasters. I think that's an initiative that you got together in the recent times,
Yep.
and it's something that is different from at least what we call the average American, and that's something related to what we're talking about here. You heard of
Okay,
Toastmasters?
right. So yeah, Toastmasters. So I made an active decision a couple years ago to go into professional speaking, trying to defend. It's like going in, like, I'm going to be a photographer. Okay. And then you're like, well, great. Then you learn, well, there's a lot of different photographers. What are you going to do? Photograph weddings? You're going to photograph people, animals, National Geographic. And so eventually what has to happen with a hard skill that we apply it to a soft skill world. And so I decided to go into real estate and business as a photographer. And now as we've evolved forward 10 years later, I decided I want to go into professional speaking. So I started surrounding myself with individuals who are actively trying to do the same thing. So Toastmasters is an international club. So they're in Brazil. There's a guy in Campo Grande right now that's in my evergreen group here. He's one of my former students from Campo Grande. He now teaches singing throughout the country.
After COVID, it doesn't make a difference if you are in Campo Grande or Evergreen, Colorado, or anywhere in the world.
You're right here in Colorado with us on the screen on a hybrid meeting. I said, man, this is awesome, because you're not just going to learn to practice English. You're going to learn how to engage in a communication style, learn how to tell your story in a precise, concise way, and if you want to, and then learn leadership skills. So Toastmasters is something I'm actively in. I've been participating in, competing in competitions. You can do the same no matter where you're at, no matter where you're at in the world. And it really is it's an amazing organization that's very inexpensive from this perspective, at least.
Thousands of chapters around the country, right, James?
Yeah.
Everywhere in America, you can find a Toastmasters.
There's chapters. Yeah, there's chapters, and it's here in America. It's like $83 a semester, which is like, a fraction of nothing, compared to a class. And what it does is give you the framework for understanding how you can speak in front of people and get feedback on your posture, your hand movement, your eye contact. Are you actually engaging with people? Are people paying attention? Because a lot of times people are they're clear, they can speak, but they're not actually engaging with the audience. They're not reaching into them because they are too hung up on maybe the hard skill of speaking in itself, which is part of it. But it's a great organization. I've got, I'm not trying to brag on myself, but I've been doing it a couple of years, and these are just a couple of the things. Cool. Speaking contest, and I'm just warming up. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't get into this to compete, but when you start competing and you want to advance, you have no choice but to get better. There's no option. It's either you get better or go home. And so,
and talking about getting better, I'd love to hear from Isa, because we talked in private before about that. Isa, about the insecurity or imposter syndrome that you could have felt regarding your English abilities, and please comment, like, before you joined the company, and then after the first 3 meetings, especially meeting with people from other countries that were not native English speakers as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It's very different when we talk among people that are not validating you. So we're talking amongst friends, and if I make a mistake, that's not a problem. But when you're talking to a boss or you're talking to a client, they are validating everything you're saying. And in the beginning, in the first 2 weeks, I was super overwhelmed. I felt like every time I was sweating, and at the end of the day, I just wanted to cry and say what I've done with my life, because there's no way these people are going to buy me. Because I then talk to my boss that I'm very smart in Portuguese. I always say that to him. I'm very smart in Portuguese. I can't show you how.
I can vouch in for that. She really is very smart in Portuguese, but you're also very smart in English. So
thank you. And when I was talking to my boss, it got better, but
Yeah.
then for clients was worse because like there are different people. We have clients from Mississippi, we have clients from Florida, we have clients from Washington, so the accents are a little bit different. The way you approach people are different because when you're talking to like a Brazilian, we're warm people, we talk about our life and everything, and Americans almost every time they are more objective, they're more to the point. And every time I felt so insecure to be myself. And now I am at my 6-month mark at the company, and I already have meetings that I run by myself. I don't need my boss with me. I have clients that like me and talk to me in private, like, hey, and talk about their lives. So when you finish those, like this first month of you, okay, what I'm doing, and just relying on whatever you already know, technically speaking.
Yeah.
And one thing that I had a teaching class with in Cambly, and my teacher said, if you make a mistake, people won't notice. They won't correct you. They won't say that, oh, you're bad at English. They won't do that. They'll just run with the flow. If you make a mistake, just go ahead and keep talking. And that made such a difference for me because I felt more chill. Like, okay, if I make a mistake, nobody's going to die for that. And that helped me improve a lot in my confidence. And I'm still sweating a little bit every time I have a meeting in English, but it's much better.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And do you speak English with Eduardo and Bettina at home? How do you deal with changing languages and all that?
It's hard because sometimes whenever I'm finished with work, I go to my home. Like I work from home, but I leave the office. And there are some words that I'm looking and, oh, okay, I know how to speak this. What's the word for it in Portuguese? I start forgetting words in Portuguese, especially when I'm talking about work. If Eduardo asks me, how was your day? And I was like, I start speaking in Portuguese and then I go back to English and then, go back and forth. I try to speak with Bettina, especially because I really want her to understand English at this young age. If it was important for me, it will be extra important for her generation. So I'm trying to speak, but sometimes the thing is when we talk to someone that can understand us in our mother language, it's easy to just go and translate it. It's easy to just go back to when you don't have this possibility, you have to make your point with that language. That makes very hard difference, very huge difference.
Yeah, you're putting yourself into the real world, so to speak, or the physical world, as Kenneth would say. I've got to be careful with that. Both the digital world is real too, but the physical world is very right. It's important. I get that too from living in Brazil, so that's why I have a very deep empathy as well, extremely deep, especially going as an adult, never hearing oi until I was 20 or 21 years old. I never heard oi. Like I never even, what was oi? Like at 21 for the first time. So, going into a situation, actively dating somebody, sitting at the table with a bunch of Brazilians who would say, hey, how's it going? Yeah, good to meet you. What's your name? And then boom, back to Portuguese. And I'm like, oh, and I dealt with that for a long time. And so it's very humbling. And as you say, you were very smart in your language. I'm sitting there thinking, man, I'm like, I know I'm smart, but I can't express that. They don't know that because I'm not able to communicate that in words, maybe in math or maybe in painting or something, but not in words. And I became very determined, like, to move forward. Because we got to find that intrinsic value that's bigger. Like, what is that thing that pulls us? But where are you at right now? Where do you want to go with where you're located? How do you see yourself moving forward? And what would you like to overcome?
Ooh, hard question.
No, it's good.
Well, I'm current in Campo Grande. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if I moved to US. I have cousins in the United States. I have cousins in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like right now this global world, you can talk to anyone, you can speak to anyone. Of course, I see myself growing in my company. I want them to be more confident around me. I want to build the trust that I have with Kenneth that I had for 9 years. I want to build that in the company that I'm currently in. And of course, be invited to go to the US and visit some clients. That would be very, very nice and important. And I do want to notice that the thing you talked as you had to start speaking in Portuguese when you were with Brazilians. I feel like one other difference that made for me was this. I know now we're global, we can talk with people from all over the world through the internet, but I did some exchange times. I went to Australia for a month to study English. I went to the United States a couple of times and went to schools there. And I feel like when you are immersed in that language, when you have to speak, when you have to survive, it's when you really let your English brain works. I went with my husband to New York a couple of years ago. He had studied English for, I think, more time than I did, but he never went to the US. And I just let him, okay, just go to the store and survive.
Yeah.
And he mentioned, and he came back with a much better understanding in English. Even though we watch things only in English, we use English subtitles sometimes. We listen to music. He, as Kenneth, is a very huge fan of Queen. So even with that, when he had to live in the language, he totally changed his mind and totally changed the way he spoke. So very, like, of course, it's not for everyone, but if you have the privilege of living abroad, that's something that's really important for improving your language.
Would you like to be able to give a presentation in front of Americans in America one day? Would that be something?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like, how do you see yourself at your higher form? Like, where is that like expand on that? Like, what would your audience be?
There's a couple of things, but I do feel like talking about marketing, digital marketing, and now with AI, and that's something Kenneth always talks about. AI is killing SEO, but actually it's not. It's becoming something more integrated with everything. So everything you do in your company, it can be related to marketing, AI marketing. You're going to be featured on AI. I'm studying a lot of how to put companies in AI. So I think talking about digital marketing, that's something I've been living for 9 years. It's probably one of the things that I would love to talk about. And Kenneth gave me a piece of advice that to be better, you have to put yourself out there. So that will be amazing.
That sounds like she's in the right place, Kenneth.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I can remember at one moment in time, I don't remember the year, but you hit crossroads at 80/20, where you were thinking about maybe, and we discussed about the possibility of going into two different roads, right? Yeah. One that was more of a manager role, where you're supervising people and you're leading, and you're having to deal with metrics and use your soft skills, your leadership skills. And the other one being the more technical avenue, where I think that as an SEO specialist right now, that's probably the avenue that you've been developing yourself into the past months in the new company, at least, right? How do you reflect about that decision and where you're at right now?
I do think that I managed to find a way with both, because even though I don't have a team to lead in anything, I do have to manage clients' expectations. I do have to do this relationship. It's a very important role for me and for my job. But the technical part is something that I think every day, these two things are more aligned with each other. You can't be only technical. You have to be a little soft skillish, because like when we're talking about AI, for example, who is looking for? It's a person. So you have to think like a person. So it doesn't matter if you're doing your SEO as perfect, if you're on page, your website is 100%, if you don't think of the people that are looking for you, that are searching your company. So I think I combine both. I'm really enjoying it right now. And hopefully I will be able to show other people, especially like we have a lot of SEO specialists in my team. They are very technical. And I always like to tell them about the other side, about how we can combine SEO with like building a buyer persona. Like they never even heard of a buyer persona when they started. So yeah, so
it's still right, because James gave me that hook and I didn't use that. I will use it right now. So still being in Campo Grande, we could call it like the middle of nowhere. That's how we feel sometimes being from Campo Grande. Still, you have a lot to teach to those folks, right, Isa? From your experience, from what you studied, from what you applied in your career, you can feel that business owners or managers that you talk to as clients, I think, there's a lot that you can teach them, right?
Totally. The thing that I really liked starting working there is to see, because we have this syndrome of saying that Brazilians don't work, Brazilians don't do anything right, and we are, especially in people skills, we are better than the rest. But
I think James is a little bit out of
sorry, James. Sorry, James.
Definitely, I can feel that. When I was at the MIT last September, it's like a week from now, I could totally see that the professors there were, and I'm afraid because this is being recorded, but I felt that they were so, in Portuguese, I'd say engessados. Like they had this fixed, structured way of thinking where they were very secure and stepping on very solid steps. And again, the world is changing every freaking second. So how can you believe your plan from before COVID still works, right? And I was introducing them a topic, the idea of multi-agent systems regarding generative AI. And they were like, yeah, we don't look at that. We're not looking at into that. And we're focused on this and that. And they're doing like the same research for the past 15 years. And again, generative AI is out there for at almost 3 years now, right? November 22nd.
Yep.
November 22 would be the launch, the November 30th, 2022. So it's almost 3 years into the revolution. And they're still looking into the past. So yes, I can totally buy into that, the idea that they are we are very flexible and adaptable in a sense. And this is pretty much needed, at least in the digital and marketing, this online business space, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I feel like also we marketers, that have a bigger mind. I feel like, sorry if I'm judging anyone, it's not that. It's like when you open your mind, you can see the bigger picture. So sometimes when people are really focused on, like I mentioned, the technical of the website, they forget the bigger picture. So whenever, even not only our professional experiences, but our personal experience, they can bring us this, okay, what's the bigger picture? What's what we're aiming for, where we're going with. So especially like from 80/20, I really learned how to aim for what is the goal? What is the purpose of this? And there's something that's, especially because, and we have a lot of younger people in my company. I'm one of the oldest. So the younger generation sometimes forget to talk about, like to think about the bigger picture. They're always just too focused on crossing and checking a list, a task, or anything. So it's been very good for me to be able to teach them something new, and they are very like happy with learning all that. So, and also I'm learning a lot from like this technical part that I lost a couple of years ago. So it's very nice.
You're right. You said Americanos são frios, right? And then you say that, and and it gets layers deep, right? It's a lack of perspective, you know. And here's two words for you too. There's judging, you don't feel like judging. There's discernment, right? Discerning something, determining what's a better route. Judgment's putting a final call on something and shutting the door, right? And so you're not doing that. It's good to use this discernment in making decisions. And there, and you know, and it's kind of the thing that gets me excited, because I realize that people that are coming from another perspective, like Brazil, are more curious about learning. And once a person has already arrived to a place, they're not listening as much to the other side. And that's kind of one of the things we want to do here. I mean, the cream always rises to the crop, I think, and no matter what, you know, you got photography, marketing, the people who continually learn, continually invest their time into what it is that they love are always going to rise up above the rest, I think. I mean, that's what I've told myself with photography, right? There's a billion people want to do photography, but like, it's really about just being actively and enthusiastic about wanting to continually learn. English, for example, I'd meet people on the streets like, oh, I already learned English. I don't need a teacher. I've already got this. And I'm sitting there thinking, you need it so bad. I need it so bad.
When I was a teenager, I had a friend that said, Kenneth, if you already know how to speak English, why do you study it? Like,
that's the same person.
What kind of question is that, right?
That's the same person that you bump into. So this is a universal thing. This is not just an American thing. It's in every country. You've got the hard-headed people, I call them, and their perspective. You just got more of them here. You got a bigger number of them. So, and it's a large number of them. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
There's a stand-up comedy beat that I love from Bill Hicks, but he passed away before you were even born. So it's and he would say that he was going to somewhere in Oklahoma or something like that, and then he gets into a bar, and then he sits and starts reading. So now this guy comes into the bar, looks at it, and like the guy's reading. That's crazy, right? And then he pushes Bill Hicks and say, "Hey, you call yourself a reader?" And then Bill Hicks is stuck like, I don't know. I never thought of that before, right? And the only mistake he was making is he was reading. That's it. So yeah, sometimes we run into
Bill
that.
Hicks, the great comedian. Yeah. That's awesome.
But Isa, let's wrap it up. I loved that you agreed to join us, our first guest in the show here. And we're still developing and discussing and trying out some different formats of how we think this discussion could go, because the whole idea before Global Bridge Leaders, as James put in at first place, is we really believe that the English language is a connector. It's a bridge that's behind the name, right? You mentioned the global world. You mentioned Bettina, your kid, learning the language as a kid. You mentioned all the possibilities that you could consider and you're now enjoying because of having this earlier contact. You mentioned exchange programs. And I really think that online content, being it a recorded content for someone who's watching, or a community, in a sense, could be a WhatsApp group. I don't know if we're going to get people inside a Google Meet call as we did before with Global Bridge Leaders. You're invited to get back and to participate in the future engagements that we will organize. But I feel like this imposter syndrome, the insecurities with the language, being able and the ability to try it in front of an audience where you feel safe because your boss is not in the room, right? So you can feel like sharing what is important and what you think will help you move forward into your now definitely global career, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you said everything right. I signed after that. And the real thing is, like you mentioned, James, we have to keep on learning. We have to keep on putting ourselves out there, and that will definitely, like, imposter syndrome is something very deep. We can even talk for hours about it. We have in very different types, but for English is definitely the bridge. It's definitely like really brings everyone together from wherever you are, and that really also it's just not just bring people together, but it opens your world. Like you can talk to people that are like, I have a colleague that lived in South Korea. Like for me, it's half across the world. Like it's so far away. So it can open your mind, can open your community. So yeah, English is very important. I sign on everything you already said.
This is awesome. I definitely, Kenneth, I don't know how much time we have. I just wanted to share, you know, really what we're trying to do here is build people with the mindset. You've already got it, Isa. You've already obviously got all of that, and we'd love to talk more. And we're wanting to bring these people together and give them, instill with them the confidence to go that way. I felt like I kind of, if anything, that's my talent or my gift. I'm the guy who knocks bullies down. You know, I would do that in the classroom even, because I know vergonha is a word that got spread like a pandemic throughout my classrooms and other places, and I slayed it like a dragon. And I said, nobody's going to make fun of nobody here unless they're talking to me. You know, right? So this is kind of like what I'm thinking of is like we need confidence in order to go forward. You can, like you said, you can get out of practice with anything. I know that myself. You may be an all-star last year, but if you haven't practiced for a year, you know, it's got to get the rust off, right, and get back on track. And so what we want to do is create this bridge, this track that people are excited about going over, where we can go to higher grounds, combining the expertise that Kenneth knows on AI. We want to continually that process, but knowing the English language is just the key that allows us to go into this international world. So it's like two big keys here, AI and English, and let's take them, let's go forward and see if we can make some big things happen. So that's kind of what we want to do. And we got some big ideas how to do it. Want to make it fun, engaging, even gamify this thing.
Yeah,
Definitely. So James, thank you. Isa, thank you a lot for being with us. We hope you can join us in the future guests and then be a part of that revolution that we're beginning right now.
Yeah, the project is amazing. Congratulations to you both to do this and keep on connecting people. That's very, like, it will be a big step for a lot of people, definitely.
Great.
Great. Yeah. Pleasure talking with you today.